have to worry about, like what you're downloading?
No, I've never had an issue with worrying about like malware or anything coming through any of the NuGet packages. I think it's just fairly well policed. You can kind of just, any user can sign up and add things to NuGet, but I've never seen anything nefarious come across NuGet. Doesn't mean it's not possible. It's just I don't believe there's any history of that happening. So we've got the client bits. And then remember, on the server, we already have the SignalR bits, so we don't need to add anything from NuGet. What we just need to do is enable SignalR on the ASP.NET side of things on the server application. So we'll go over to the server app, and we have a controller folder we don't have a need for, and we don't have a hub folder. We need to add a new hub folder. So we'll add a folder called hubs, just so it falls in that same convention of what we'd use for controllers. And then we need to add a SignalR hub. So we're going to start with the chat hub. I know I said we do more like a more hello world style thing. We'll get back to that. We'll just follow the demo in the docs here real quick and get a chat hub. So we'll add a new file here. We'll call it chat hub. I think that's what is suggested by the docs here, right? Yep, chat hub. And we'll go ahead and just paste in the code from this page here, and I'll talk about what's in this. So these are the basic using statements. These are APIs that we're going to use, parts of the framework that we're going to access. So our using statements are all up here at the top. And you see we have Microsoft ASP.NET Core SignalR, and that is where our hub is going to come from. So you can see the namespace here. It's we're going to inherit from hub, and this hub is a class of that namespace, and the hub lives inside of that SignalR namespace. So we'll inherit from hub and call it chat hub, and now our chat hub has all of the abilities that a hub has. So one of the things we're going to set up here is a method called sendMessage. And sendMessage is going to take a user and a message. These are both strings. So a user and a message, and then it will call a SignalR method of all clients. So clients.all send async, and all of the connected clients will get a message from this chat hub invoking a method called receive message. And we're using some magic strings here. So we're not calling the API directly. We're passing a string to the SignalR client saying invoke a method called receive message with these parameters.
Do you have things called interfaces?
Yes. So if you're
used to
if you're used to TypeScript and interfaces and generics and all of those things, they exist in .NET. That's because they kind of came from .NET or from C#. So the person that created the TypeScript language also worked on the C# language. So there's a lot of influence there.
I just was wondering if a quick solution to the magic string was to create an interface and make it typed.
Yes, that is exactly what you would do. You create, I think it's like this. We can look at it in a few minutes, but you would create a hub of iChat hub like that.
You would not believe how lost I would be if Angular hadn't decided to go the route of TypeScript, because literally all of this was foreign. And whenever the Angular team announced that we were going in that direction, me and many of my front enders were like, but why? But there's so many similarities with TypeScript that I feel pretty comfortable. So it's cool. Cool.
Yep. So we can get rid of the generic string here with a typed hub but we'll look at that in a bit. That's something I was talking about with David before he started his show today. I was asking if that was possible on the client. It looks like it's not possible on the client yet, but on the server we can use typed hubs.
Wait, why wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it seems backwards? Wouldn't it be more easily to do on the client?
We'll get there. Okay. I think we're getting beyond
okay.
the scope of today to talk about all that, but I don't know why, but it seems like something we should be able to do. Let's see. We need to set up the middleware. So again, SignalR is part of ASP.NET Core, but it's not enabled by default. So we need to go into our server project under our startup. And let's see, where was the exact? Configure services. And in configure services, we need to add the SignalR service. So this one, controller with views, gives us that nice JSON response web API controller that we found in the controllers section. That's what enables that to give us a JSON response out. The same with add SignalR, that enables our chat hub to create a WebSocket and connect clients. And then Razor Pages, this add Razor Pages actually enables the Blazor server part of this. So we can serve
Silly Queen.
We can serve a Blazor application. Is it breaking something if we replace async and await parts from the example with a single return?
I didn't know if that was...
Not sure what we mean there. With a single return.
Public async, public... Well, is there another way to do this async await bit, or is this the way to do it?
Don't believe there's another way to do this. So... it's going to be any kind of server client interactions are going to be an asynchronous operation because they're disconnected. So a server and client are not on the same machine. So we're going to be waiting. You can remove the async and await keywords and return the task.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
I love it.
So you can just return like that. Okay.
That's cool. Okay. I learned something.
I guess that simplifies things just a little bit. I guess the other side of the coin would be this is a little more explicit, so you know exactly what the method is doing, even though a task usually implies it's async.
Silly Queen, it removes generation of...
Oh, okay. So there may be some efficiency to that as well.
Cool.
Then, so David, since you're here, then why is this the documentation? What would the best practice?
Why is this the default?
Why is this the default? Would be a good question. If there is any efficiency around that, why is the documentation showing us to do it this specific way?
Why you do this to us? It's fine, but it's only available when you're returning a single task. If you have multiple things you're awaiting, you need async. So yeah, that's something I've actually noticed about these docs is they're very future thinking. Like for instance, look at how we've got system collection, system, what is that, link? We're not using any of that, but they're planning on us using that, so they gave it to us. So it's very forward thinking.
So just to clarify, we could do both of these are valid syntax here. I'm using Visual Studio shortcuts. How do you format code in Visual Studio? Control-Shift-F? Nope, that's not it. How do I auto-format this thing?
Could you right-click with your mouse? Usually it'll say like the shortcut next to the task. Format document, Shift-Alt-F.
Shift-Alt-F. I thought that's what I hit Control-Alt-F. Okay. You could essentially do, why is it throwing underscores at me? I forgot to return. Both of these are valid until you want to add additional code in here. So if you had another thing that you were awaiting, David's jumping in. David's got to correct me here.
Tell us, David.
Give
Oh,
us
hi.
the truth, my friend.
Hey, friends. What's happening right now? I'm trying to play it. Like there was a bit of a delay. No, that's correct. Yeah, you can do either of these. At first, I was curious about what Silly Queen X was asking as well. But then, yeah, so you can do async and await. Anything that returns a task, you can make it a single expression. You can return that task that represents that asynchronous operation. But you can also omit the async and await keywords. And to the forward-thinking aspect and why it's documented that way, a lot of it's based on just the templating. So the templates are done that way, and they don't like to have breaking changes with their templates. But a lot of their templates do include namespaces that are unnecessary, as Alyssa's alluded to. Yeah, so, but I'm a bit torn myself. I think Stephen Tobe had actually written some stuff on how you still would actually want the async and await keywords because of, I can't remember the reason why. While it still does work if you just return the task like that, I mean, that's totally fine as well. But I think there's reasons why you would want to leave them. I just don't know offhand.
Alrighty. That sounds good. I was trying to break it down like this.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So if you have some other things that may need to run in there, you would do it that way.
An observable, or is that irrelevant?
It's totally not irrelevant, but it's not applicable with SignalR.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think an observable will be an opt-in on the side of the fence that you're waiting for the changes on. So if you wanted to make it an observable thing on the client, you could, and then wait for the changes there. But you don't really need to do that technically in SignalR unless there's some other like heavy UI component that needs to update and has like a lot of moving pieces to it. What are we highlighting here?
Oh, it's a question about needing a return with async version of the function.
So when you use the async and await keywords, since the return type is task, you don't actually need to return it because that task is being awaited. And the C# compiler will actually, it doesn't require a return statement.
Yeah, and then since there's no await statement here, we require the return. Otherwise, it'd be void.
Right.
Noise.
All right, so we got in a little deep there, which is great, though. These are great questions. Much
I'll drop and keep watching, I guess. All right, bye.
Thanks, David.
Yep.
These are all great questions. There's a lot of good stuff coming up here. Oh, not at all. Silly Queen X is really good stuff. So we'll just leave this with the way the docs are for now. Just so if anybody looks back, it looks the same. They don't have to really question what's going on here. Let's see. So in this next section, we need to enable the MIME type on the server. So let's go over to, let's see, this was in use endpoints. Configure services, use endpoints. Or no, it's below. Making sure I got the right section here. Add SignalR, yeah, it's after that. So this is more middleware we're configuring for the MIME type for the WebSocket. So this is application octet stream. So this is, I believe this is binary. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but this is the binary protocol that we're adding. So we have different MIME types on the web. A lot of these are usually abstracted away from you on the server just because they're so common. So like, I'm trying to remember if it's text, HTTP text. Let's see. MIME type list. There's a bunch of these things. Common MIME types. So if your application is using any of these file types, like here's a really common one you don't normally see yourself adding to an application, like text/CSS is a MIME type. And if you don't have these listed in your server, they may throw an error and not serve those files to your client because they're not enabled So that is what we're doing there. We're setting up one that is specifically for that WebSocket connection. So we can actually do a quick look at that if anybody wants to know what exactly that means. Let's see. A MIME attachment of type application octet is a binary file. So we're using a binary protocol over that WebSocket. So that's what we're enabling. And this is the same one that you use if you're downloading spreadsheets and Word docs from your application as well. So when you use something like the Telerik components or the Kendo UI components, and you're using like the document processing libraries on your server, and you're like clicking that like export to Excel button, you may need to enable a MIME type like this to receive that, or maybe it's file uploads. I may have that backwards. If you're going to import documents, you may need to have that enabled to receive them. So that's what we're setting up here. This one is on the response. So this would be serving up that file. So response compression with the MIME type is set here. Let's see. Next, we have to configure. We've set up that service, but I think this is just enabling it through configuration. So use response compression, and here we've added response compression. So we're giving it the configuration, and then we're adding that configured piece to the application. So we're going to use that bit that we configured. And then we need to enable our chat hub. So in here, if you look on our use endpoints, map razor pages and map controllers are very generic mappings that give us any razor page that is in the project that has a page directive, or any controller that's a controller class. We can use some default routing. So some default endpoints are generated with those. And then if none of those are found, it'll map back to index.html. So if we're going to localhost / something that's not found, it's going to come back to index.html and try to route there. If it's a razor page, it'll find it with this mapping. If it's a controller, it'll find it with that. And then we need to add our hub as well.
It's weird that the endpoints are specified in your startup file. Don't you find that odd? Like, I would expect there to be like a routing file that all your routes go into, not just these routes.
So these are generic routings that are based on convention. So you can have individual routings that you can specify as well. Kind of like this chat hub is a very specific one. So we're mapping just a single hub to resolve that chat hub that we added. And then we're giving it the explicit route of /chat hub. So if there was a razor page called chat hub or a controller called chat hub, we would actually hit those. There may be a conflict. I'm not sure if it'll blow up, but if it didn't exist, it would resolve one of those. And those can be those routes can be specified at the on the razor page itself or on the controller itself. So
David
we can do them by convention.
Yeah, David was saying that you could put them in a separate file.
Yeah, so we have some options here. It just depends on how you want to configure this.
Most projects, you don't create an extension and put your endpoints elsewhere. Like, would you say this is just the way you do it? Generally,
David, do we have a way of doing a generic map hubs, or is this the only way to do hubs? I can explain the other bits away that aren't SignalR. Endpoints.map hub. Map Blazor hub. Map Blazor hub is a special one for server-side Blazor, which is a whole other topic we probably shouldn't get into right now. Yeah, I didn't see a map hubs. So with map Razor pages, so the page itself, let's see if there's one here. There is error. It has an @page directive, and it's going to take the, I don't know if error specifically, but it would normally just take the name of the page. So it'd be like error/error, and this would show up. So the routing is built into the file. So if we were to delete error.cshtml, the route would go away too, and we wouldn't have to go back to a file and delete the route. So it's a little bit easier. It's kind of built by convention. The same with the controller. The name of the controller endpoint, the routing is stems from the convention of the class name minus the controller. So weather forecast is, we hit that earlier. We said localhost / weather forecast and it gave us data back. That's because it routed here. And you can see we can actually change the route with this attribute up here. So route controller gives us weather forecast from the name of the controller. But we could actually go in here, and if we wanted, it'd be the same thing, but I could say weather like that, and it'd be the same exact thing. Or I could call it something else, like very custom. So /custom is now a controller route, and it's discovered through this map controller's configuration here. So we'll go ahead and change that back just so we don't have any weird errors pop up later. That's my fault. And then we need to chat hub namespace is not found, so we need to add a using statement here. I don't know if this, oh, it does work. Control period in Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code will give you kind of a list of fixes, and I can just click add using server.hubs, and that's going to resolve that red underscore there. Let's see. And then David's answering my question. You could build an extension method and add hubs and just map all the hubs in one spot. So you can easily, you'd still be writing these endpoint map statements explicitly, but you could just wrap them up in a convenience method.
I just didn't know if there was like a convention that most people follow, like one way or the other.
So like just the quick and dirty like method of this, you could actually do extract method or local function, and you could say, oh, that didn't work out well. You could call it map hubs like that, and you could just put them all in this one thing here. You could have multiple like that.
I gotcha. But at the end of the day,
and it could go in another file, etc.
At the end of the day, it still has to point to like the startup file. Like it needs to know about it, I guess.
Yeah, the startup is doing
I gotcha.
the it's registering those routes with the application.
Okay.
So there's different types of routings that we can have, because there's Razor pages, there's controllers. It's ASP.NET, so it like covers anything web related. So any kind of routing you're going to have gets specified in here for those different types of application purposes. If we were just routing pages, if this was just serving up pages, you might not have any of these things, and it would just be endpoints map Razor pages, and then that's all of your routing for your whole app. And then your individual routes might be in those pages themselves.
Cool.
So what this would do is it would scan. It's going to do a scan of the assembly, and it's going to go find all of the pages that have a page directive on them. So if we look at error, it's going to go, because it's a compiled language, so it is strongly typed. So it can go through and look for these compiler directives and say, oh, there's a page directive here. The page is called error CSHTML, so we're going to have a route called error. And then I'll go ahead and add that to the routes. without you having to go spell out every single page and every single route somewhere. So there's some nice conventions that are here. There's kind of like a thin line that exists between all of this stuff. I've done some Ruby in the past, and there were, I don't remember which version I used, but you had to go through and literally like spell out all of the routings somewhere. And then there was a point where they decided to go very convention based with everything. And then there was like magic wiring up literally everything in a Ruby app. And like the pendulum swung so far that when you were new to it and you're like, how does this know that this thing is a thing? And like, if it breaks, you have nowhere to look because there's just so much magic in tying it all together. So,
Oh, did you see what David said? He heard back from Stephen Taub.
it's perfectly valid to just return task for a single async operation rather than using async await keywords. There are some perf benefits, but they're minuscule. Okay.
Cool. Cool.
Anyhow, routing in a nutshell. We've got it. We've got our chat hub enabled. So now we're going to go back. That kind of solves all the server side stuff. We've got it all set up. It's ready for the client to be built. So we've got to go ahead and put a client portion of the application together. And I'm going to copy the entire example. And we'll drop over to the client. And I'm going to go to the index page, and I'm going to wipe this out. And
David also shared a link, so I'm resharing that so that all the channels who are watching the stream get the link if you're interested in more.
Oh. No, I don't want to go to another website. I must have clicked on the IntelliSense that popped up. So there was like a link in that little pop-up window that I clicked on. So I just pasted in the code from the example. So this is back on the server because I'm in my client app. So if we open client, go to pages, I'm on index. Now I have that chat example that we talked about a long time ago. That David started off with a more complex version of what we're building here. This is going to enable some real-time chat between multiple users. So first of all, let's look at the top of the file. We'll go back to routing for one more second. In our client application, we also have a concept of routing. So we have a server route that gives us things like our chat hubs, API endpoints, like if we have web APIs to call, like that fetch data example earlier on. If we hit the Blazor endpoint and we're served a Blazor application, the routing is now a client responsibility. So we have client-side routing just like Angular does. And those routes are specified per component. So we have a routing directive called @page, and whatever we put in the string here becomes the route. And again, just like our server is configured, if we go into program CS, it is built in already. That call isn't as explicit here, I don't believe. We can add some additional routing in the root component. So you can see we have a router component. And it initially looks in the app assembly, but we can tell it to look elsewhere for routes too. So if we had, say, a package...
This is so strange. This found, not found.
Yeah.
All right inside this root. It's weird.
Yeah, so the root component will handle the routing for us. The app component, rather, will handle the routing for us with this router component that's inside of it. Mm-hmm. So like you pointed out, Alyssa, we've got found. If there's route data found, it will show this view. If it's not found, this is where we'd configure the missing page text. This always poses a little bit of an issue because with a single page application like this, even with Angular or React even, no matter what happens here, this is a server response of 200. So if we go to a page that doesn't exist, we don't get a 404 anymore. So we actually get a
You-
200 back.
Could you change it so that it does do a 400 or no?
There's some ways to fix that. So you run into this with, especially with like static hosting, it can get to be an issue. You can add a not page like a 404 and put it, but yeah, that you can configure it to look like a 404 page, David, but the point is like you don't actually get a 404
You're saying it's not
back.
actually a 404 behind the scenes, and you don't.
No, you don't get a 404 response. If you look at the response stream, it's a 200.
Okay.
Even though it looks like it's a not found. So that can cause some issues sometimes. So if there's like static hosting involved, like GitHub pages or something, it can get a little bit into the weeds because it'll have a problem falling back to the proper routes if there's not a page there. So you may not want this message. You may want it to like default to like GitHub pages 404 so it can go somewhere else. And that rerouting never happens because a 400 never occurs or a 404 never occurs. Yeah. So anyway, again, we're getting off track. That's where the routing does happen. You can add other assemblies besides this one. So if you have another .NET library that has routing in it and you want to use the pages from that library, which can be very handy for many things, you can add that as well. So there's an additional assemblies property here that you can go look into other assemblies and find routing. So that's handy to use sometimes.
The word assembly is equivalent to...
So in this example, I have just client, right? If I had a portion of my application, like maybe there was a separate project for just doing like authentication views, I could separate that out into another assembly and say, here's all of my pages and my Blazor app that does all the login, log out stuff. And I use it on, the same interface across 5 different Blazor apps. So I put that on my server somewhere and I share it between these 5 projects and they can all pull the routing out of it and use the same routing and the same pages and the same code. So I don't have to keep repeating that login, log out dialogue everywhere. So it's very easy to abstract things out into other projects and make it more manageable. Let's see here. So I don't think I ever saved this. I need to make sure I save that. We're on index.razor still. We're using the SignalR client. Up until the last release, I believe, this was not possible in Blazor. You had to use JavaScript to do it. So now there is a native Blazor API library for the client side, so we can write .NET code using C# and not have to rely on any JavaScript. So that will pull that in. And this navigation manager, I need to see how that's being used. Navigation manager is, again, this is a single page application. So, okay, navigation manager is helping us resolve the full URI for that chat hub. So make sure it gets the URI for us. So navigation manager has a couple of roles here. It can help us shape routes and paths for us, but it can also navigate the client and send them to other places. So that's being used for getting the route to the server's chat hub. Finally, it's implementing iDisposable async. This is a interface that we use to clean up resources. So iDisposable or iAsync disposable will get fired when we navigate away from this page, and it goes out of the user's view, and it gets cleaned up. So Blazor will kick this off, or the runtime will kick this off once the resource isn't used anymore. And then we have a method that we go into, this dispose async method, and we destroy that hub connection. So we don't have a loose SignalR connection floating around.
Do you know the difference between using and inject?
Difference between using and inject. Using statement says that we're bringing in a namespace from a library, and we're going to be using some classes and methods and whatnot from that namespace. It's not a implementation of anything. It's not a concrete new object of any kind. It's just saying there's some stuff inside of this ASP.NET Core SignalR client library that I'm going to need in this scope. Inject is saying I want an instance of Navigation Manager. Tell dependency injection to give me a resolved instance, a concrete instance of Navigation Manager. Okay. So the using statements are just dealing with scope. It's just bringing things into a reference, kind of so we can attach to that namespace without having to type out the full namespace every time. If I took this away, what we'd end up with is this long namespace here, pretty much in front of everything that is in that namespace. So it'd be Microsoft.SignalR or Microsoft ASP.NET Core SignalR Client Connection Hub. That's awful lengthy to type every time you need a connection hub.
Wait, so it's not making that available to us. It's just giving us a shorter namespace?
It's making it available globally within this page, but it's this is the same.
So you can just delete using and type out the long thing, and then you can still use it.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of like pathing it. It's telling us where that hub connection is located and what assembly it's located in.
Could you give it, other than nothing, could you give it a different namespace, like
you can alias it. I don't know how you can alias in a Razor component. If this was just standard C#, which we could convert this to if we wanted to, you can alias it really easy.
Look how David described it. You have to fully qualify those references. Otherwise, it allows you to refer them with their full name.
So what could happen is you could end up, what did it do? I hit something and it's got a dialogue of some sort going. There we go. Nope, that's the wrong line. You could have two very similar namespaces that both have something like a hub connection at the end. You may have like an ambiguous reference that comes up where the compiler can't tell where the hub connection comes from because you have these two using statements that kind of intersect. They both have a hub connection object on them. You can alias one of those. So you can call it something else, and then it'd be like ASP.NET hub connection and then Ed's hub connection.
Right. David was saying that you say using a equals system.action in order
to that does. I didn't know if that worked.
But I thought it would be like the word as or something. So you have to actually set it kind of thing.
So you could do it like that is what he's saying. And then every instance would be
hub connection. Oh, okay. Cool.
The only time you really ever use that, though, is when, like I said, there's a conflicting namespace where the compiler can't resolve the two because they're so similar.
Okay.
They both have the same object in them, and you can't tell
which one you're trying to get it from, right?
Foo, Alyssa.foo from ed.foo. They're both foo, and they're both the using statement brings them into the same scope. So which one do I use? You can alias one of them.
You for sure are adding value. No, I guess I thought using was still kind of like injection, but it sounds like it's totally not. It's just about
all scope management.
Really. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool.
Let's see here. So we've got our form. The form has, and again, here's everybody's favorite bootstrap. It's just a div wrapper with a label. We've got an HTML input that is binding some data to user input, which is a field. We'll scroll down and find
you
our
get this
field.
from the .NET page, or did you?
Yes.
Wait, where did this come from?
Sorry, I copied that from the add Razor component code for chat.
Okay, cool.
We got a bunch of questions, so it's been a while since we looked back at that page. That's where it came from.
Okay.
So on line 9, we've got an input. On line 15, we have an input. This is our username and our message that we're going to send to the chat hub. And those are using data binding, two-way data binding. And then we have a send button that has an on-click event. When you see @onClick, this means we're going to handle the event in .NET, in Blazor.
So are all these @s, they're all Blazor?
Yes.
None of this is from SignalR. Correct? Because like all the templating
Correct.
is Blazor.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. The SignalR stuff is going to be in the code section, where we have our hub connection and some other things we haven't got to yet. So up here in the markup, this is all just Blazor conventions. So in Blazor, just a quick little sidebar again, if you see on click like this is a JavaScript event handler. So we're handling on click in JavaScript, and we better have some kind of JavaScript method there to handle that. If we put @on click, that means we're going to handle it in Blazor in .NET code. So if you
weird that you can mix them. That's
if you
weird.
forget to put your @symbol, you may see an error come up that says that it can't find such and such JavaScript method. So that's where that would come from.
What's with
But yeah,
the
it's-
code block inside of your Razor file? What's with that?
So with Razor, you can put all of your code inside of the component, or you can put it in another file.
Okay.
So I know it's been a while since I've done Angular, but in Angular you can have there's some sort of block at the top that
Yes. Yeah,
and you
where
can have your
specify
CSS file and it's trying to fill it in for me, and then you have kind of like this header that specifies where your TypeScript file is and so on.
Yes.
You can do that with Blazor as well. There's conventions built in. They're different than Angular, but they're conventions that let you separate those files out. We can actually look at one of those in our shared folder. So you can see the CSS code is coupled with the nav menu.
Mm-hmm.
So it has I don't particularly care for this approach, but it is there if you want to use it.
What?
So your nav menu has a Razor CSS file that has the same naming conventions, and the framework will automatically pick that up.
Oh,
and
really? There's
import
no
it.
pointer inside of navmenu.razor that's pointing to that CSS file?
Nope.
Really?
Well, it will automatically find
Shut
nav
the
menu
front door.
and
Wait,
take the
is it the same?
CSS.
Is it the same for code? Can you like it'll just match it up if it's got the same name? Like if you wanted to take that code block
Yes
out.
and no. There's one little different piece with it. You have to call it a shared class, and if it's shared, it will pick it up. So we can do that in a few minutes and see how that works.
Why don't you like it? It sounds awesome.
The CSS bit, because I like Sass, and this kind of conflicts with Sass
Can't you
architecture.
Change it to .sass and it'll still map it.
What happens with this is you could change these to Sass. You'd have to compile each individual file to CSS after that, which sounds messy to me.
I'm just wondering, is there not because in Angular, for instance, whenever you generate a new project, you can choose to generate a CSS or a Sass project, and so then it's automatically going to plug in with .sass files. So is there not a way by default to be I'm going to use Sass in this project? And no, okay.
Sadly, no.
Okay,
Sadly, no.
I gotcha. Okay.
For some reason, and forgive me if this is not a politically correct statement anymore, but Sass is the redheaded stepchild of the .NET world for some reason.
Is it really?
Yeah, it
Oh my
never.
God, everybody
yeah.
loves SAS over on my side of the
I don't know why. There was some early initiatives to
You
go
know what
with.
I bet it is? I bet it's the Ruby community.
It could be. I have no idea why it never took off. Some people used to use less, and then that kind of fell out of style.
Less
I have
died.
no clue what the situation is now, but there's no like .NET SAS compiler that's.
Wow.
If there is one, it's not widely used or well known. There's one called Web Compiler that kind of abstracts things away and lets you use SAS and .NET, but it's got a lot of quirks to it. Like if you have CI/CD deployments, which pretty much everybody does these days,
Yeah.
it blows up. It doesn't necessarily
Well,
work
but
on
since
Mac
you
the way it
love-
should.
Since you love using SAS, what is your normal flow then? How
I
do you
just npm install node SAS and just run node SAS.
just run that? Okay.
Yeah, it's just that easy. So anyway, this will bundle up any of these CSS files it finds with the same name as your
That's
component.
really cool. I love that. Like
And
that it just matches it.
will-
That's awesome.
It will scope them, which is
Oh, really?
yeah.
Poo to that.
It will scope them and it will add them to this CSS file here. So what you end up with is, I'm trying to remember how I can view this thing.
Do you have a global style sheet?
You can create a global style sheet. It's just
And it
normal
won't-
CSS.
But like it'll be for the whole project. It won't scope it to a component.
Correct.
Okay.
So if I look in here and we've got an error because of something, if I go and you can see some of the attributes, it tacks on an attribute. So this is the scoped CSS at work here. So you can
Yeah.
see the attribute. It's just
Angular
tacked
is the
on.
exact same way.
Yeah, it tacks
does.
that on, and then that same attribute's found in the CSS. It injects itself in there, and it scopes it. And I do not like scope styles. I think they're bad practice.
Oh, I knew I liked you for a reason, Ed.
They are hot garbage. Don't use them, and
Do you
don't
have
send me hate mail.
with Angular at like the root of your project? You can turn, or at the root of each component, you can turn view encapsulation on or off so that it won't scope that. It'll just be cascading. Can you do that with yours? Is there a flag? or
There's
something?
a double colon root or something. I don't remember. There's the same convention that Angular uses. It has.
Oh, no. I think you're talking about adding styles to root. What I'm talking about is like inside of like the TypeScript, you actually say like turn view encapsulation off so that it's
Yeah,
not
you
going to add those tokens in the attributes or anything.
You just don't include the CSS file. Just delete the file. Delete the file. It will not include it. So if you want to tell me how scoped CSS is wonderful and how I'm wrong and SAS is awful, then just email me at chrisdemars@gmail.com.
We love you, Salt. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you were walking us through
Yeah.
the Razor file.
So we had our inputs. We have a button to click,
Just send.
and we have some inputs. So we're gonna bind to our inputs, and
Did we already copy over the functionality for like sending messages, or is that to come?
that's down here. So when we click on our button, it binds to a message called send. When we click send, we're going to go to our hub connection. The hub connection is created when our component initializes.
What the heck
So-
is a task?
All of the lifecycle methods have an asynchronous functionality in Blazor. So when the component renders, it will go through its, or when it initializes, it will go through its initialization process the first time, and it will render anything that it already has available. So if you're, calling out to web APIs and stuff and getting data back, that data is not going to be available yet. So it may not be able to render data that it's received from, say, like a web service that we had an example earlier called fetch data. It'll run through the first time and render what it has. Anything that has an await statement in it, it will then await those things. And when the data comes back and those awaits resolve, it will re-render the component again. So it will get an updated version of that component's rendering. So if we're fetching a table of data, it'll render the page without the data, then it'll fetch the data, and then it'll render the table that it just fetched data for and update that. So it's an asynchronous task. It kind of triggers twice.
Are there other options? If you're like, I don't want this task to be asynchronous, like
anything that happens outside of the view. So if you have to call to a service, it's pretty much just inherently going to be asynchronous because you've got some sort of lag time between when you call for the service and you get the data back. Unless that data is in memory already for some reason, then you can call a different initialization event. There is an override of on initialized without the async portion, and it will just do the single one pass initialization of that thing.
Oh, weird. Cool. So right now we're using the normal task, which is async, and
yeah, anytime you're going to fetch data outside of the component, you're going to want to use the asynchronous version of it. Again, because it's disconnected, the data's not there yet. So you want to await that data to get there so you can populate the component. So that's what this is doing. It's going to create a hub connection when it initializes. So this will go out and it will establish a connection with the chat hub that we created. And it will register a method called receive message. And we saw this on the server portion of it. We can go back and look in a second so we can kind of mesh these two things back up and see how they tie together. So this registers a method that can be called, this is why it's called remote procedure call, because we're going to call a procedure remotely from our server on our client called receive message. And we're going to pass it a username and a message. And then we'll add that to a list and then call a method to update the component and render the updated information on that page. And then the final thing here is it's awaiting this connection to start asynchronously. So when this gets built up, it'll reach out to the chat hub, and there's a method that we're not currently using on the chat hub. But I think it's right on connected async will fire. And when unconnected async fires, then it will finish this start async. So when that finally finishes, the component will be re-rendered and ready to send and receive chat messages. So back to the send button. When we click send, we're going to get that hub connection we built and call send async. So that comes back to our chat hub. Let's try to put this side by side here. And that was a button for it. I am so not used to Visual Studio Code. Or yeah, let's close that one. I don't know how you navigate over to a tab. Trying to minimize that down a little bit. There's chat hub index. There we go. So we click our button. We click on send. It does send async, which kicks off this method here, and it puts in the username and passes those in as parameters. And then immediately calls send async on all the clients. So it's going to come back here and initialize this method. So this receive message function gets called. It gets the user and the message back and populates a list and displays it on the page.
So right now this is for a chat. So we're sending the messages to all the clients. But like, let's say with Crazy Eights, for example, if I'm just wondering if this is the same flow that we're going to use for like if I draw a card and then we'll just send that to instead of .all to .user ID or something, or is it something totally different that we would be using for those kind of mechanics?
I think we're going to need a couple different things. So let's take a look at the chat hub for a second. Let's close all this down and focus on chat hubs. So chat hubs can do a lot of different things. So let's go into this send message code for a second. We can build a client. Let's see, the client that sends a message to all connected clients. We can group them, and we can say group and send a message to a group by name.
Oh yeah, David's mentioning the developer toggle screencast mode. Have you seen it before? It helps like if you press any like hotkeys or things.
Okay, cool. Let's try that. So
It's like F1, I guess, opens your command palette and then type developer.
am I doing it wrong? There's control.
Maybe try screencast. Why isn't it searching? My hotkeys are different. Oh yeah, that looks better. Try here. Yeah. Yeah.
So now, oh, look at ooh. All right, Purdy. Now we're getting requests for dark mode too.
Spoiled people. Ooh, control F1. Oh yeah, that does help.
Theme.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember.
Oh, no, not that one.
I would like mustard theme, please. Thank you.
Theme. Dark. Let's do Visual Studio. There we go. So I think, yeah, we're 10x devs. Oh, that's already zoomed to the max. I was trying to zoom in some more.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
there. Oh,
oh.
that just zoomed the outside UI. Ugh. I don't like
I
that.
want my icons really big.
Okay. Hopefully people can still see that because dark mode sometimes you need to go up just a little bit bigger on the font. So we can do client dot. Boy, can that get toned down a little bit? That's nice for y'all, but it's not nice for me trying to type.
I know. I'm right there with you. If you want to toggle it off, sometimes when I try typing with this, yeah, the down arrow that I see, it can
It's
be
like,
a bit
here is the
aggressive.
ultimate distraction. Caller dot. So we can do clients.caller, which is the person who called the hub.
That's cool.
So this is what David was talking about earlier. You can do an echo. What we should probably do.
That's not really an echo though, right? Like we're just saying caller.
You can. I mean, if I'm the one that sent the message and I send the same thing back, then it's an echo.
Okay, I see.
So if I took this, we can create a little example here in a few seconds. Why don't we take a quick break for, I need to refill my water.
Oh,
and
yeah. Almost low on the coffee.
right back. We've got another few minutes. We can do some coding here and explore
We'll be
some
on for about
chat hubs.
45 more?
Yeah.
35, 45, something like that.
So we'll take, do you want to stay on or do you want to take a quick break as well?
No, I want to get more coffee too.
That's how I roll.
Who have just joined or, joined a little late. We are doing a SignalR stream week. Today is day 1. And right now we are wrapping up the getting set up part, right? For our kind of hello world chat, SignalR bits.
So this will eventually become our project. So let's rebuild this here. Let's try to run this again. because unable to attach browser. So it blew up.
Did it just say unable to attach a browser?
Yeah.
What?
So let's go to the command line. Let's do cd.
I have personally never heard of that error message before. I think that's fun.
All right, so let's try .NET build here.
Did your
something
watch
is
get
not
stopped?
working?
What happened to your watch? You kill it
Yes, I did.
with fire?
Um,
My sister got me this Winky Lux matcha tea gloss. 10 out of 10. Would recommend.
so we've gotten ourselves into a bad place somehow.
Don't we this situation, okay,
Oh,
Edward?
okay, here we go. There is still a watch running somewhere.
That's what I thought. You had
You
your
are
watch
correct,
going.
but I don't see it running.
Oh, okay. So this is a really good question for like all developers out there. If you've got a task that's running on some port somewhere, but you're like, I have no idea where you are. What's your like go-to way of killing said task? Like, I always have to Google this because I am like,
Yeah, that's a good.
I need my port back, please. Like,
That's a really good question because I am at a point where I'm stuck, and I don't know where that is running because I don't have it anywhere.
Yep.
Reboot. Yeah, that's gonna work well in the live stream.
Wait, well,
Yeah.
restarting your computer, like it'll kill that task. It won't be back when you come back.
Oh, that'll definitely work.
Interesting.
Yeah, I might have to do that because I'm gonna close all instances of it.
Did you see what David said?
Kill all .NET processes.
Yes. See, it's always this little kill all thing that I end up like Googling and finding, and then I have to run it for the port that I'm trying to kill. And it's like, are you sure? And I'm like, kill it with fire. And then it gives me the port back.
.NET host. That will do it.
Oh, it's in your task manager. Interesting. I've had it before where I had ports being taken up and it wasn't in Mac's version of task manager.
So now I gotta navigate back to that.
Have you had any water today, Ed?
Yes, too much. That's why we needed the break.
Really? You've been drinking water? You're so good. All I've had is coffee
have.
so far. It's so bad. Wait, is that that's not a, oh, at first I thought it was like a gallon size. I was like, really?
I think it's at least a half gallon.
Okay.
This was crazy 8.
What happened? Because you had it watching and running and it was happy.
I don't know. I'm gonna blame David because he's not here.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going with that plan.
Oops.
Also, your font is the smallest ant font I've ever seen.
So I basically changed directories like 12 times. That's about all you missed. And now our project runs again. All right, so we'll pull up the browser. And we will put in our local host. And there we go. We have an app again. And there's no error, so that's good. And then we'll duplicate the tab.
How do we know this is the same app? How do we know you didn't trick us?
So we have 2 instances of a client. So these are 2 different instances of a client in that application. They're going to communicate over a SignalR hub. So we will create a user here. This will be me, and then so now I can control what you say, Alyssa.
I always knew it would come to this.
There we go.
Wow.
So now the 2 clients are synced up.
Ooh. Can you go and change it real quick instead of .all? Just to like prove a point that that's actually what's happening.
So let's have some fun with this. Let's go back to the application code. And so we've got send all async. Let's add something to the project here. Let's go to the client page, and let's add another button. So we have a button here that says send. Let's duplicate that. And we'll call this echo. Okay. And we'll change the text. So now we need to create an event called echo.
I'm so excited.
So we'll take the send event.
Don't
and we'll
call it an
copy
event, mister. That's a task.
And we will change this to handle echo. And on that connection hub, we have send message. We'll call echo message. Okay. So it'll take the same user name and message, and instead of calling send, it's going to call echo. So we'll copy this. And I really hate the way this thing formats.
It was like
There we go.
F1 alt something something. I don't even remember.
So we'll call echo message, but instead of send all, we'll send to colon. But we'll still return the same thing. We'll still go out to the client and say receive message, and that should just echo the same message back.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
Should be that easy.
Did you change the button text? I assume.
And then
whenever you
this
did
is
it.
not a run anymore, or not a watch. So if I rebuild, I don't know how to build in Visual Studio Code.
Maybe
oh
under
yeah, you have to
run?
go- let's do this. Let's kill this and do .NET watch run. So now we don't have to worry about building anymore. It'll do it for us. There we go. We need to reconnect this so we have two instances again. And then if I say hi to Alyssa, we both get it.
Okay.
But if I say hi to myself, you didn't get it.
Hey.
Pretty cool.
Well, okay, real quick refresher. So there's just like of some of the options. You can say all. You can say caller.
Yeah.
Is that really it? Is there like a user?
Oh,
There's
let's see.
groups.
We've got, real quick here, a question as well.
Oh yeah, Scott's question.
So, thank you. And it says, off-topic question, do you have any resources for setting up .NET Identity? Docs.microsoft.com is probably my go-to resource for that. So I would check there for .NET Identity stuff. And that's where we're getting all of our information for SignalR today, like including the demo project is at docs.microsoft.com.
David Pine said, "Good luck." Is this a difficult thing to do?
For identity?
Yeah, is that?
Let's see. One of the .NET Docs team people just said good luck with that, so that's not a good sign. But
Okay, is identity, does that mean like user authentication, or is there actually a product called identity?
David, you know this is on record, right? You know this is being recorded, my friend. Let's see. I wanted to look at the hub. So we have the chat hub, iHub client. Let's see. So what I need to find here is the SignalR. I don't want the tutorial. I want the actual real-time web app. This is all under tutorial. There we go. SignalR overview, samples, server clients. No, server concepts, hubs. And then I have, of course, how to send a message We have all, we have caller, and we have group.
Dude, it took me so long to find that, and I never actually found it. Where are you in the docs? I was under
So I
Hub.
navigated back up the chain a little bit here. So this is under ASP.NET Core 5, under real-time apps. So we were under tutorials earlier. So if you take that up to real-time apps, it's under server concepts and hubs. So under hubs, there are API definitions here of how to create and use hubs, client objects. So here's another instance of it. We have all. Let me zoom in a little bit here. We have all, caller, and others. So you can do kind of like an excludes here. So this will do everybody, all connected clients, the client that invoked the method, and other, all clients except the one that invoked the method. So if we didn't want to see that echo come back, we could say others, and it would just send it to everybody but me.
What did that say below it? HTTP clients also contain the following methods.
All except. So this is similar to others, but you're specifying the user or the group that you want to take off of the list.
Can you send me the link? I still can't find
sure.
it.
Here, I will put it in.
So bad.
I'll put it in the global chat in case anybody else wants to see that as well.
Bad at navigating documentation. It's just not something I would put on my resume.
So you can call a specific client. You can say clients. There's a group except, others in group. So you can narrow down people within the group as well. And then you can target specific users too. Users is a little bit more difficult because we don't have any type of identity to identify what a user is or who a user is. So if we had identity already baked in, so we were both signing in, say, with like a Microsoft account, or we had a username and email password registered with the site, we could actually have known users that we could communicate with.
I guess I don't understand the difference between a property and a method, is what it's coming down to.
So a method is like a function that runs and either does some type of changes some type of state in the application, which generally is frowned upon, but runs a void method, or gives you a result back. Property is a field on a class or an object that holds a state value. So a user.name, a name is a property, but method would be, let's say user,
What do properties contain methods? Yes. Or no?
Properties are the only two methods that a property has is get and set.
Okay.
So you can get a property, or you can set the value of a property. That's the only two things that a property is capable of. Okay. Properties also are not capable of being asynchronous because of that, because they're supposed to be used for local piece of data. They're not meant to be a method that calls out to another service and does something asynchronous.
Scott Grunwald said, like a verb, it does something. So, okay, go back to our code real quick. So we have the echo, it's going to an individual, but you used a caller property, right? To make that happen.
So caller, yes, caller property. So you can use all, or you can use caller, or you can use other. So the properties are basically shortcuts to get a collection of users. So it's just getting all of the users, and then off of that, you're telling it to do something with all of those users. So clients.all and then you're calling send async. That's going to take all of the users from that collection and send that message to them. So there's the three main properties that you have that are kind of just shortcut convenience methods is all they really are.
So I'm trying to think for Crazy Eights, we're going to be, I don't know if we would send to all, right? Like, because individuals are drawing, seeing their deck. I guess you have the main screen area that you showed in your mock-up before where it's kind of like the draw pile and the discarded pile, but...
So we can go back to what exactly we're doing.
I don't know... Is that main screen area, do you think that's like a stream, for instance, that's connected that we're sending to all callers?
So if we did
to all people,
that would literally touch not only the main screen, but all of the player screens. So that might not be something that we particularly need a lot of. One thing that would probably happen is we'd probably have groups. And group is another thing that we can call on. So there's a method in here that will get groups for us and send messages to those groups. Let's see, where did that go?
Right.
So we could say group and group accept. So there's a couple useful things there.
Okay.
So in this scenario, if we look at it, this would be a group. Sorry, I'm trying to do, let's see, control. This screen would be a group, and then the users might be a group.
Well, I don't know, because I don't think, is there anything that we would want to send to all the users? Because I feel like it'd be like, we're just sending to individual IDs, right? Like, because I don't want to know what your cards are.
Might be getting a little ahead of ourselves. So on the surface, it might look like we might not want to send something to all the players.
You think we will?
But I think we will because maybe the game is over. Maybe we want to send a screen to log out or something like that.
Right. David said, think of it like this. If we have a game object, a property might be an ID of game, whereas a method might be play, since you can play a game. So, and then Marius asked a question about being able to see the code, if it'll be published on GitHub.
Yeah, so I need to create a GitHub repo, and we'll push that up to GitHub. Let's see, how much time did we have left here? About 15 minutes.
And we still need to do prizes, but...
So far, we don't have anything but the Getting Started tutorial, so... Tomorrow, when we sign in, we'll create a GitHub repo and we'll start pushing changes, I think, up to that.
Yay! Because I want to pull it down and see if I can get it running on my machine.
Yeah. If you want to do that, we can do it now. We can set up a GitHub.
Okay, so for normal workflow, if I like pull down somebody else's work, I would run like npm install to make sure that I had all of the packages you were using. What's the equivalent? So is there...
So when you, first of all, you just need to make sure that you have the .NET Framework SDKs installed.
Yes.
If you have those, all you have to do is clone the project and do .NET. .NET Run should do it.
Really? Run would include making sure everything's installed?
When you do .NET Run, it should do a .NET Restore automatically.
Oh, that's really cool.
So .NET Restore is similar to npm install. So that would get all of the dependencies and pull them in. You can do that if you just want to see it run explicitly like that.
Yeah.
But .NET Run should do the same thing. So you should be able to do .NET Run from the server project, and it should just work. But
Rick VD Bosch said it does a build if necessary, which includes restore if needed. That's really cool.
Yeah, so it should be pretty intuitive to just get it up and going, as long as you have that SDK installed. Like, that's really the more lengthy part of it, is just going out and installing the SDK. Other than that, let's get this thing up on GitHub. So let's do Git init.
And then very soon, we will have a drawing to announce the 3 winners for today's Amazon gift cards. We have $50 Amazon gift cards to give out to 3 people. So if you haven't already, make sure you fill out the quick. Let's see. I think it's
shoot.
Prizes.
Okay, let's undo that.
Did you do something bad?
Yes. Ah, come on. I didn't add an git ignore.
Thanks, Ivana. So yes, here is how you can enter to win the gift cards. The gift cards. We're announcing the gift cards. Oh, I'm so excited.
So whenever
Oh,
you
you
do a project like this, I'm used to Visual Studio just doing this for me. So there was no git ignore file, and it just like literally added everything to a Git repo, which is not something you want to do. So you want to create a git ignore and ignore all the stuff that you don't need in the Git repo. So we can try that again. See, I had 806 objects that it added to the graph. So git init again. Git add. Whoops. And that's still a lot, 729. I think that's probably okay though.
Enter to win our drawing, and be sure you're hydrating, while Ed ensures we have the code.
So we'll add that stuff to, see it has, why does it have obj? That's not a folder I want in my git ignore.
How come? What's wrong with that folder? Why are you hating on
that? Is
that
all
folder?
compiled code. I don't need the compiled code in my.
Oh, it's like git ignoring your dist folder. I gotcha.
Yeah. Let's
David
try
says
this
move your
again.
git ignore to the root. It looked like it was
Oh.
in the wrong directory.
Is that what I did? Somehow I put it in the wrong. I put it in the server folder. I'm glad you caught that, and I couldn't see it right here on my screen.
Thanks, David. You
Thank
the best.
David. Yes, move it. Move it to the root, please.
Are you sure you want to do that?
All right, let's try that again.
Hey, Brady's on. Hi, Brady.
Hey, Brady. We'll have Brady Gaster on here later.
You
this
and
week.
me both. I don't know how it's gonna go.
There we go. 25 objects sounds way better than 700.
Do you have a mechanical keyboard?
Yes. You hear it? All right. So now I can push this up to GitHub. I think just for easy legality purposes, I'll just throw it on my personal GitHub account and not the Telerik GitHub account. Just because there's a lot of licenses and things we need to put in there if I put it on the Telerik account. So I'll create a brand new
Ooh, look at me. I have access to push to Telerik. Woohoo! I'm fancy.
repository.
We all hear you bragging.
Let's see here. Create.
Ooh, Rick asked if the repo will be open for contributions. I'm gonna just say all PRs are welcome. We might not merge it during the stream, but I want to see
Yeah.
what you can do, and I will pull it down and run it and show it off to the world. So
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Just so we can stay on track on the show, we probably will, like you said, pull them
don't
in
worry, I won't let him stay on track.
as we as we get them. But we might merge them later on.
So
and
Silly
shove
Queen
them on.
asked, why do you use VS Code? And I personally think it's to be nice to me because I am a Mac user. I'm new to .NET and all I know is VS Code. But maybe Ed has his other reasons.
I usually use Visual Studio. Visual Studio has been problematic, to be honest, with me lately. So,
With which parts? Like serving or?
like crashing a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So,
running.
I'm trying out new stuff.
Have you had any crashing with the code? VS Code? Or no?
No, just that little hiccup we had earlier. What am I doing wrong here?
Failed to push some refs to Blazor structure. Push stuff to or main and it's master, or is main what you renamed it?
No,
Main
I didn't
does not
rename.
match.
I didn't rename anything.
So maybe push to origin master?
Yeah, that's what I was grabbing from the docs. But
I don't know. Just I like to try things, and then when they work, I go.
GitHub may have changed their terminology for master to main. There was some stuff to make it a little more inclusive, I guess, that was being talked about. And they may have changed it in their docs, but git init by default does master, so there's a little disconnect, I think, there.
Look at what Rick said. He's making me giggle.
Okay, so it is up there on my GitHub page, and I'll share my GitHub page now. That is.
Why read Rick's comment?
Hang on 1 second. I've got browsers over my page here.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Visual Studio 2019 is everything but stable. We'll create a.
Really? What, that was sarcasm?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's been really bad lately, and I've tried to pass some feedback on to the team there, but we'll see how that turns out. I've had nothing but issues since .NET 5 was released with Visual Studio, so I'm looking for alternatives. So using Visual Studio Code today was pretty good. I've also been using Writer.
Oh, I haven't heard of
I
Writer.
was playing around with some stuff on Friday, and it locked up on me 3 times. So anyhow, end rant. Let's see, and I'll share this. There is the repo that we worked on today. Writer is actually pretty good. I like that. And Visual Studio Code works well too. I'm just missing some of the extra bells and whistles that Visual Studio has that I like. Like the integrated unit testing and stuff is really nice, and not having to jump to a command line is also pretty comfortable. So we'll dig into this tomorrow, right, Alyssa?
Yes, but also,
We will...
you did share the link? Did you share? Oh yes. There it is.
Yes, it did.
I was like, I didn't see it. Okay, there it is.
So what we'll do
so
tomorrow is we'll kind of chunk this up a little bit.
we are almost to the top of the hour, almost ready to announce our winners for the day. So if you have not already, please and thank you, enter to win our drawing for 3 $50 Amazon gift cards. You too could be a winner, and you could buy some like pretzels or I don't know, whatever you buy on Amazon. And here is the GitHub repo that Ed just created for us, that I will pull down and get running tomorrow. And we're going to just keep working our way towards having Crazy 8s built with SignalR. But also, do we have a guest for tomorrow?
Yes, we do. We have tomorrow. Here, let's get the official page going here. Give me 1 second. I had it a minute ago. And I'm glad I pulled this up off screen because for some reason, when I typed in Twitter to find the URL I had, it went directly to a Seth Rogen quote that was not appropriate for the show. So, and I don't know why it was on there. I don't remember going to that specifically. Let's see.
You can buy pretzels. I recommend Dots. If you've never heard of them, you will not regret purchasing.
There it is.
Oh, but we're almost ready.
Because we have the worst URL shortener in the world, I keep forgetting this.
What?
Here we go. So tomorrow, we have Kevin Griffin coming. And he has a real world scenario that he's going to talk about that he actually used SignalR for.
Yay!
That has to deal with a 911 dashboard. So this sounds like a really cool one. So come tomorrow at 11 o'clock to see what he has to say. And,
Oh, that's why you were saying me in the chat. I thought you were saying me to buying pretzels, but I'm with you now. I'm here. I get it, Kevin. I'm excited.
Oh.
I was lost, but now I'm found. Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't know you were still in the chat there. I saw you early when we first started, Kevin, but I didn't know you were still there. So yeah, Kevin will be on tomorrow. Brady will be on Thursday, and Sam will be on Friday. And
cool.
we'll continue. We'll bite off some of our UI tomorrow and actually do some of the game. Like we were saying, I think we'll do a lot of the kind of group messages. We will. We're not going to have identity. Like we're not going to like create like sign-ins that we persist in a database or anything like that. It'll be kind of like in memory, and we'll throw those things away. So I don't think we'll be using identity to do the players and identify them. But what I anticipate is when you sign in to, join the game, you'll provide like whatever you want your player ID to be, and that will just become a group.
Jim Bob.
So player one will be a group, even though it's only one connection that will always be in that group.
I just need you to make sure one of the players is Jim Bob.
Jim Bob, yeah. That would be a way of identifying a player and only sending them certain messages.
But you're talking about groups. I gotcha. I gotcha.
So group one, group whatever, player one would only receive updates for their hand and stuff. I think that would be an easy way to kind of channel these messages back and forth. So we'll have to look at like state management and user management and groups and sending messages and those things tomorrow. So it should be pretty interesting.
Are you ready? Are you ready, Ed?
Are we giving away a prize? We have a drum
Giving
roll?
away 3 prizes.
We're giving away all 3 today?
Yeah, I think it's 3 today. It might be more or less or the same tomorrow. So yeah, 3. We have 3 gift cards to give away today, and the winners are.
3 every day, Sarah.
3 every day.
Look at that.
All right, so our first winner was watching either on YouTube or Facebook, not Twitch. Rick Doris. We have your emails for all our winners, so don't worry about it. We will contact you with your gift card. Do you want to announce the next one, Ed?
Sure. Is this one really hard to pronounce? Is that why you're doing this to me?
Oh, no, I just wanted to be nice and let you announce. I can do all
where are you getting these?
Okay, I got this. It's totally fine.
Oh, there it is.
One on Twitch. You see it?
Yes. So, Does Stitches on Twitch. Ralph Rinheimer.
And
one
then
of our winners.
Let's see, our third one.
That one's all you.
Thank you, Surjit Manhas, maybe, or Surjit, but I think it's Surjit. And that one was on Twitch as well. So yes, we do have emails. We will be in touch. You shall get your gift cards. Yeah, thank you all so much for making this stream awesome. And a special thanks, of course, to David Pine for not only like giving a really excellent talk at the beginning of the stream, but for kind of hanging out, answering questions throughout, and making it lively. So we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Like Alyssa said, it's great to have the Microsoft community show up the way that they do. David and Brady both work at Microsoft, and then we have our MVP community and Kevin Griffin and Sam Basu jumping in there as well. So really great crowd. Great to work with you all. Thank you.
Yep. Have a wonderful day. Same time tomorrow. Same bat channel. Bye, guys.
Bye.